What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to our panel on creatively investing in people. This is part of what we're calling the Phoenix Project, F&B, really information gathering, a coalition. It's really trying to create a roadmap for an equitable, profitable, and sustainable model for the restaurant industry. For me, that's really built on what I call the Paragon Pillars, two outcome goals for the industry that we try to work towards and achieve to be able to have, again, that equitable, profitable, and sustainable industry, which is such a challenge and struggle, and we'll get into that. The two pillars are really built on how do we get restaurants to a 20% net profitability, which when the average is under 10% is crazy and seems impossible. Yet we believe if you bring stakeholders from real estate and landlords, food, alcohol, ranchers, farmers, municipalities together and create an understanding of all the levers that are in a P&L within a restaurant, we think there's an opportunity for 0.5% here, 0.25% there, 3% here to create the opportunity for restaurants to have that profitability be able to sustain and not be so slim on the margins. And the second, and much more importantly for me, which I also believe it creates an unlock for pillar number one, is to have 75% employee retention and satisfaction. And when pre-COVID, the average restaurant's employee tenure is 56 days. That seems like an insurmountable challenge. However, I believe that we can achieve that. And the panel that I have here are doing a lot of work within their own worlds to try and achieve just these kinds of measures. So the way that I always go about this is I want to find really smart, talented people, get them in a room, have a conversation that leads to action. So that's what we're doing today. You'll hear a lot more about both the Phoenix Project, F&B, and the Paragon Pillars, but this for me was kind of a place to start. So I'd like to introduce this panel now. Very excited, very honored and humbled to have them all here to speak today. So Juan Padro, who is part of Culinary Creative based in Denver, a slew of restaurants. Juan, I can't even keep up, but we'll give a couple of highlights. Tap and Burger Concepts, Bardo, Senor Bear, Ashkara are a few of those restaurants. Brother Luck, down in Colorado Springs with 4 by Brother Luck and Lucky Dumpling. Yumi Tran has Indochine Cuisine in Parker, Colorado. Josh Nuremberg out in Grand Junction, Bin 707 and Taco Party. Caroline Glover in Aurora, Annette restaurant there. Rebecca Berries with Hot Schedules powered by Fourth. She's in Denver. Kevin Galaba, Friends and Family Group in Denver, Colorado. And Anders Benson with the Denver's Chef Guild. Thank you to everybody for being here. All right, the way that this is going to play out is everybody's going to have some allotted periods of time to kind of really deep dive into a few things that are important to them. We're going to start with some of the ethos. Everyone's going to tell us kind of their philosophy, high-level thinking, approach to investing in people. And then each individual panelist is going to take a couple minutes to, again, talk about some specifics. Hopefully we get both strategy and thinking as well as some tactics that people can deploy. All right, let me start and I'll go in the order that we just kind of called out and let everyone have a minute. Juan Padro, Culinary Creative in Denver. Talk to us about your vision for investing in your people.
Yeah, it's thanks for having me. It's something that's sort of evolved over time. I know you brought up Cicerone and tuition reimbursement, and that's sort of what we had originally been focused on education, and that we would make that investment in anybody that really wanted to continue their education. And I think sort of the philosophy behind that, and there was a debate, was, all right, you put a bunch of money into somebody and then they leave. You just talked about the high turnover. And I think from my perspective, my concern is, what if we don't invest in them? What are we putting out? And so that was a pretty simple thing to do. As we've grown, we've invested a lot in infrastructure, which I think has helped out a lot too. I know some of the folks here have multiple restaurants now, and really we started early at restaurant 2. We maybe started a little bit too early, but if you can afford to do it, creating a good infrastructure through a holding company that allows you to provide services into the restaurant that frees up your people's time to do things. I think that was a really important thing for us to do. And we went through a really challenging period when we opened up, I want to say 5 restaurants in 12 months, all different. and one in New Orleans. So it was pretty wild, but, having that infrastructure in place, really, allowed us to do those types of things. So we had people in charge of education, and we had people in charge of training and, events and all that type of stuff. And that allowed our people to kind of continue to grow. And what ended up happening was we were able to move people around. And we made some mistakes there for sure. We definitely moved too many people early on from one restaurant to another and kind of disrupted some of the culture. And we learned from that. But now, we've got a pretty good developmental program, especially in the back of the house with chefs. And I think they're doing a good job, kind of across the board. Max does a lot of that. And, having somebody like at the head of the culinary team is, I don't know that we could do it without him. So.
Heard that. All right, brother, for you, kind of, again, give us that high level for you thinking about investing in your people. Where does that really start for you?
Yeah, I think we have a responsibility as business owners, as chefs to inspire the next generation, and it's giving them the right principles and foundations to build their empires on. So for me, a lot of where we start is community. Restaurants mean to restore the community. So what are you doing to be a part of the community? Are you a pillar? Do people respect you? We really try to instill that into a lot of our staff, because we think that's something that is going to translate to that next generation of chefs that are coming up. So for me, that's a big part. It goes far beyond just financial and education as far as culinary and restaurant operations. We want them to be pillars. We want them to be people that stand out and make a difference and make an impact and change their cultures. A lot of us are moving to smaller markets, and as we're in smaller markets, you have even more opportunity to truly be somebody that can sway a vote, that can influence policies and think about who's in office. And there's so many things that we're teaching these young people besides just how to cook.
Love it. So Yumi, for you, brother mentioned a pillar in the community. You've been there in Parker for 17 years. How have you been able to, again, creatively invest in your people to create that kind of sustained presence in Parker?
Okay, well, yeah, okay. Thank you for having me here. But yes, we are different than most of the restaurant owner, we are not coming from culinary. So my focus is not to train I don't look at my staff as we're going to be the next chef, because most of them are college kids and most of them are high school kids, so they move on. So we have developed a brand and a presence in Parker in that send the kid there, they're going to learn a lot of wonderful skills that would, one, make them a great students in college, or two, they will gain so many financial basics in terms of how to save money and just managing a business, just so someday they have any kind of business, they should be able to use the same skill set. So I don't focus so much on you're going to go back and you're going to stick with the kitchen work or stick with the front work. It's all about giving them basic life skills, multitasking responsibilities, obligation, commitment to your team, self-manage. Like I mentioned, we don't have back of the house manager, we don't have front of the house manager. For years, 17 years, we have each team, we call them our crew. Our crew lasts 3 to 4 years at each time, right? And then so they last, and then they go, and then come back. Last night, we have 2 kids who in college came back for the summer to be in the kitchen. They slide right in and be completely fluent. So that's our philosophy, is to give them money, give them skill set, so then they can go on and be a better person for society, whether or not they're in a kitchen or restaurant business or not.
That's great. I love it. Josh Nuremberg, for you, you and I have talked a lot about your people and your team, and a lot of them have been with you for a long time. How have you been able to cultivate that? What is that thinking that is baked into your brands out there in Grand Junction?
Yeah, thanks, Jensen. It kind of starts with the motivation of doing the restaurant here in the first place. when we started, it was the last recession, which hit Grand Junction here really hard because at the time it was all oil and gas. We had about I think 10, 11% unemployment rate here in Grand Junction. So when we opened the restaurant, we really used it as a way to, support local, which, say has been the flag I've been carrying as long as I can remember at this point. But part of that was to invest in our, create jobs, invest in the people that we have here to teach them new skills, to turn hospitality into a viable industry here, which previously had not been. So in doing so, trying to create good homes with above average pay, with long-term jobs by each position has been a goal now for 10 years. We've been really lucky to be able to retain some of those people. And that's where our growth has come from. So an opening Taco Party, and we're about to open Ben Burger. The point of that is just to continue to create homes for these people that have been with us for so long, so that we can continue to kind of allow people to rise up within the ranks.
There you go. Caroline, for you, with Annette and being newer in the scene and really like trying to figure out and navigate this idea of investing in people, for you as a new business owner, having the one restaurant, how have you been able to navigate that for yourself, for your team, investing in them?
Yeah, so I think whenever we opened Annette, we kind of wanted to do it a little bit of a different way with employees. And that was paying everybody the same wage. And I think that has created a more community, less back of the house versus front of the house, less support staff versus lead servers. It kind of puts everybody on the same playing field. If everybody knows that each other is earning the same money, it makes everybody hold each other accountable. And so I think, us going that route has had its challenges, but it also has kept my core crew and has definitely brought on people who want to be a part of a team, who want to feel like they're contributing, who want to learn. We've had one of my line cooks can also host. He likes serving every once in a while. And it's been difficult because we do have a really high standard of service and in the kitchen. But at the end of the day, if everybody's making the same money, I think that there is this level of respect that everybody has for each other. And I think that that's missing in a lot of restaurant culture. So I feel like that's kind of our main thing, is to try to, create a community within the restaurant, but also put everybody on the same playing field. Whether you're a dishwasher, whether you're a line cook, whether you're a sous chef, everybody is on the same level.
Love it. That's that equitability for sure. All right, so Rebecca, you very much are connective tissue between operations and staff, working a lot in technology to kind of connect those dots, connect those pieces, make it as fluid as possible, reduce friction. So when you're thinking about restaurants' ability to invest in people, where's your head go? What's your thinking on that?
Yeah, thanks, Jensen. I think the biggest piece is communication, and having your employees have an understanding of their responsibilities and the opportunity for career growth, and being able to navigate that is really critical. And being able to communicate team member, manager to manager, there's more openness and the ability to grow together. I think that comes in very, very handy. And, the opportunity for career scaling, to know that there's a path that you can take. And, I have great stories of dishwashers who are now running food and beverage in these organizations. And that's because they had the right tools and communications to grow and to be better. And they ended up staying with these organizations for years to come. So the communication piece is one of our key things that is really important. And just, again, understanding your tasks, as we're coming upon COVID, and I'll dive into this a little bit later, but understanding the new regulations that are coming out, and employees are empowered by that. And when they feel empowered, they do better, they want to be better, and they tend to stay longer. So those are just a few key thoughts for me.
Let's stay on communication. Kevin, with your group, friends and family, over 2,000 members, kind of the Denver area, communication is key for you. So maybe dig into that for you. How is your high level thinking about investing in people with that group, friends and family?
Sure. So when I moved to Colorado in 2007, I didn't know a single person in Colorado, so I had to start from scratch, and it was a really interesting experience to to build up everything I have from zero. And I kind of wanted to create something that like a new person, for example, moving to Colorado might be able to just plug into, and there's an existing infrastructure to get engaged and be a part of the community. So Friends and Family is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're based legally around education. That's always been our #1 mission. The goal ultimately is to at some point have like some kind of certification program. Like I want to get into like hospitality education, but also technical skills and stuff like that. But we also have a very strong volunteering arm and community engagement platform. So we do a lot of volunteering, food-based. And basically the point of it is, of the organization is not only people, but really the overarching purpose is bringing people together, having a sense of community and a sense of a future in this industry. And to speak to those people who might be inspired to be more engaged and to continue on. But we do a lot of volunteering, which brings people together, and seeing the friendships and relationships that have come just out of that part of what we're doing is really inspiring to see people really just cross restaurants. They would never meet each other, even if they work in the same building, like Union Station. The kitchen next door might not ever talk to the people over at Mercantile, but it's a great opportunity to bring people together and say, oh wow, there's something bigger going on here.
It's important. Anders, you're just starting the Denver Chefs Guild as a way to have a resource, be able to have conversations within the hospitality community. So talk about that. Obviously, the impetus for us very much was investing in people. So give us a little bit of your thinking on starting the group and why that's important in the model of investing in people.
Very much so. I think it's very similar to what Kevin and Friends and Family have been working on. And I think it does focus a lot on the connection and building community and helping create value that way. I was a career chef, now culinary educator in DPS, and basically working with the Denver Chefs Guild. We're trying to help create space to strengthen community, facilitate connections. So being able to find each other and discover what resources we have available, and supporting the health of Denver's food workers through finding organizations that are willing to meet us halfway and to participate, to reach out. And so projects in the work for us are looking like hosting conversation spaces, much like this one, generating resource banks, publishing food worker stories, effectively connecting individuals together. And we're always seeking input for how to support Denver's food workers in whatever way is most impactful. And I think when it comes to investing in people, like I'm preaching to several choirs here, each person is human and is valuable.
I love that. Well, let's stick with you, because everyone now is going to have a few minutes to kind of go into some specifics. So when you're talking about the hope that you have within the community as a whole, and then the Chefs Guild specifically, you mentioned hosting some talks. Kind of go a little deeper. What are the mechanisms that you believe are going to have the biggest impact?
Well, I think in terms of long-term, that's what we're hoping to discover through conversations like this. I think principle #1 for solid design is to observe and interact. And so what we're hoping to do is to really get a pulse on the food workers of Denver, the extremely diverse community that represents, and seeing what tools will be most effective. Because challenges for workers, it depends on the person. You have several different, very distinct types of chefs in the Denver area alone. And I think for us to observe those people, those different sections, and to know what those needs are, can help us to form a strategy that doesn't necessarily generate long-term or long-distance impact on the specific tools that we find will work for Denver, but the process by which we arrive at those tools. And so I think looking at long-term hopes that we have for food workers and chefs in Denver is definitely what this group is here and all about and already doing. These are like the tip of the spear in terms of constructive growth in the industry. So like support from leadership in the balance and the health and the growth of their employees, in meeting those employees where they're at, because everyone has their own specific needs. And I think that many of these issues that we've seen classically in the industry, but also now with COVID, are going to tie into and will benefit greatly from a more conscious and interconnected culinary community. And just like Brother was mentioning, the needs of future generations, trends like social justice are not going to go away, and I don't think the industry is immune. So I think it's important that we start involving every single person in these conversations and making sure that they're heard and acknowledged.
For you, Kevin, give us some more specifics on the actual tactics, the things that you're doing that you see having the biggest impact on creating that culture, that longevity for people to see their future, as you put it, in the industry.
Sure. Well, I'm going to start with the volunteering aspect. So I'm in a church right now at 14th and Grant. Below me is a huge event space and prep kitchen where we've been prepping meals for the last 2 months. So this is a big part of our volunteer and community focused outlet. So the Denver Metro Emergency Food Network, which Juan is a part of through the Colorado Restaurant Response, we made about just over 175,000 and delivered them in the past 2 months. So the network is basically an assembling of for and nonprofit organizations, Friends and Family being one of them, and we are the people. So we're staffing. All my people are downstairs right now. I got 10 volunteers right now making meals downstairs. And that's been amazing to see that develop. We've got a really, really strong team developed, but people are really, really love the notion that they're giving something, there's a higher purpose, there's a bigger picture here, that their skills are, even though they're not getting paid, they come at it with energy and passion, and they're just so great about doing everything that's asked, and they show up every day early, they stay late. And so that's been a big thing for me. And have a pretty strong volunteer arm. We've been working with Volunteers America for the last 3 years. We send chefs and bartenders and restaurant employees over there, and they love us over there because we get the game. We love being in a kitchen, and we know what we're doing. We take direction well. We're really good workers in the kitchen. So those types of things, I see a lot of. I've actually had to turn people away, which is great. Particularly this younger generation, they really want to have a connection to the sense that they're doing something bigger than just bringing a drink to a table or chopping up some chicken or whatever. But even bigger than that, even offering some education opportunities. The proverbial kid who works at Cheesecake Factory goes to one of our classes and realizes, oh wait, there's something bigger here. There's a career here. There's people that are just like me that want to do this, and there's more than maybe where I'm at right now. There's a path here. So sort of inspiration and engagement and getting people involved and letting them know that, hey, we're all, you're in a family, which is one of the reasons I call the organization Friends and Family is, what Anthony Bourdain was saying in his book, you're slinging hash in Cincinnati, you're making sushi in Tokyo, you're working in an Irish pub in Australia. We're really all doing the same thing, and we're really all, a family here. So let's get together, let's take care of each other, and let's do good things for good people.
Hell yes. Amen. Are you allowed to say hell yes and amen in the same sentence? I don't know, but I just did. All right. Rebecca, for you, again, connective tissue, very much working across both lines, and a lot of times feels like there's enemy lines when it comes to staff and employers, which is why, again, we have such great people on talking about that it has to be about coming together. So for you, some specifics on how you see the two sides as they've classically been, as Anders put it, coming together in a more meaningful way. How are you specifically trying to accomplish that?
Yeah, specifically by teaching employers to empower their employees. As I said, when employees are empowered to make the right choices, they feel like they have more ownership of the business, and educating the owner operators and anybody in that organization who's kind of running it to pass that down and really to have that connective tissue. Because if you have employees who can make the right choices and do the right things, it alleviates a lot of that stress and that, feeling of just they're not going to align well. So giving them that is going to be huge. You know, having communication platforms, having weekly conversations where employees throw out ideas and letting them, again, just, you know, kind of take the lead. And we try to teach employers to do that. And that comes with setting up proper handbooks and scheduling tools so that the employees can communicate together versus going to, you know, your manager saying, hey, I need this day off. They can work together as a team. And it just seems to put everybody on a better playing field when that communication comes into play. It's a big piece, right? It's communication all around. And right now, with so much of this chaos and the unknown of how things are going to change, I mean, we're given 48 hours to open doors. It's a huge piece of that to be able to just go in and do what's right.
So for you then, you're creating kind of HR, you have scheduling, like, so you're creating the systems and the framework for that. How do you see that then needing to evolve from where it was to where it needs to be when we're talking about investing in people? What is actually the development of technology that's leading to that?
You know, absolutely. So a lot of that are learning management systems, having training set out specifically for your employees. And there's a lot of leadership with that when there's a place for them to go with technology to learn on their own. I love what Juan said about, you know, the investment of if they go out and do the education, the reimbursement of that. And so allowing employees to educate themselves and giving them the right tools, again, is what's going to make them more successful in your organization and want to stay. There's a value add there. You want to stay with somebody who's investing in you, and you want to give back to that organization because and then to Kevin's side of things, you know, it's like family at that point. So we try to create that platform to put everybody out there and allow employees to then have career growth, to be sustainable in that organization.
Appreciate that. All right, Caroline, let's give you a few minutes to talk about something that I thought was really compelling. Everybody kind of gave some 2 cents background on some of the initiatives, the programs that everybody has rolled out or is planning to roll out as well. And for you, you had one that really struck me. You literally wrote transparency, transparency, transparency. And you are basically showing your books to everyone. How did you go about that? Why is that so important to you? And talk about what that's leading to within the culture that you're developing at Annette.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I worked for other people, I think, 15 years before I opened Annette. And I never really saw the books. I saw P&Ls, I saw our food cost or all the COGS, but I feel like seeing the big picture tells a lot more. And so honestly, when I opened Annette, like that was the first time I saw the whole books. And it made me realize that I didn't know a lot. I still don't know a lot, but I'm learning. And I wanted my crew to learn with me. And at the beginning, whenever we were splitting tips with everybody, I didn't know how much front of the house made before this. I've never, ever seen a server's paycheck. It just never even occurred to me, which is weird looking back on it. But, I was in the kitchen, I was doing what I loved, and I wasn't super concerned about who was making what. When I started to see those paychecks and see what tips looked like, I was like, holy shit, there is a lot of money and this money should be spread out. And so that kind of got my brain churning, and I got pushback from front of the house saying, why does my paycheck look this way? How much should we do in sales? And I had this moment of, everybody should know what we're making, what we're bringing in every single night. They should see what goes out. We're the only industry that of every dollar that comes in, 90 cents of it goes out. And that's huge. And everybody plays a role in that, whether it's food waste or a dishwasher running through, all the chemicals. So transparency just became a really big thing to me. And when I started showing the books to anybody who wanted to look at them, I felt like people understood why their paycheck looked a certain way, or why they had, such a big paycheck the day before, whatever. It just opened up doors for everybody. It also, I have a lot of people who work for me that want to open their own places, and that excites me. And I want them to do that. So as much information as I can give them, so they go into it maybe a little bit more wide-eyed than I did, I encourage that. So I just think transparency is a stepping point. It's a jumping point. It involves so much. It's not only numbers, it's also emotions. And I think that's been really big during this pandemic. I feel like since I am such a transparent person, it was easy to switch to letting people know how I felt emotionally whenever everything started happening. And I don't know, I mean, this pandemic, it's been insane. But I think coming in every single day and checking in with people and us being transparent and saying, how are you feeling? What's going on? Are you ready for today? It just creates a better atmosphere for everybody.
And you think that is effective and sustains within your culture? Are you able to keep people? Did you have to find a new type of front of house person? How did that practically play out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I've had to find a different front of the house type of person. It's somebody that's more invested in the vision of a net rather than somebody coming in wanting to work 4 hours, make their $500 and leave for the night. And those people are super seasoned. And there was a part of me, I lost a lot of those people when we opened the doors after they got their first few paychecks. And that was really hard for me. And I had a moment where I almost went back to the traditional front and back of the house pay. And, you know, we kind of went through a lot of people. I didn't lose anybody back of the house. I've had everybody for almost 3.5 years, including dishwashers. And so I had that. And I got accused of having a back of house favorable restaurant by a lot of my front of the house guys who initially started with us. And, you know, I really took that to heart, and I went home and I thought, you know, what am I being favorable to back of the house because I am a cook? And I'm not. It's fair. It's a fair restaurant. It's just, you don't see it that often. So I had, before the shutdown, a really incredible crew, and it took a while to cultivate bringing those types of people in. But the people who work at a net, the servers want to be there. They want to be invested in what we're doing. They like learning. They like being a part of the process. And that's been huge. You know, my husband and I are there every single day. We're just as invested. And I think they see that and they want that and they're there for that. But it's a different type of server. It's a different type of person looking for something different. And I think it's a lot of people trying to get out of the traditional restaurant, you know, scene and feel a part of a crew. And so I definitely had to kind of change what we were looking for. You know, originally I was like, you should know the steps of service. You know, I kind of had all these things that I wanted servers to know coming in and be seasoned. And it's totally changed. It's changed, you know, the way I interview people. I'm looking for people that are kind, you know. You can feel that at tables. You can feel when somebody cares and they're invested. And if they forget to reset you before the next course, but I don't care, you know. Like, to me, it matters that they are taking care of the guest in the best way possible, and kindness and intuition and just kind of understanding people's needs is really important. So our interview process totally changed.
Appreciate that. That is serious commitment, because it's very counter to the way the industry has been. And so, speaking of that, let's stay on that thread. Josh, for you, prime costs, something, variable control costs, labor, food, pour, these things are embedded in us as the way that a lot of us are bonused, the expectations that are set. You run 40 to 50% labor costs, which basically makes people's jaws drop. Talk about why and how that has become a reality for your businesses.
Well, I suppose let's start with background. You know, before I moved to Grand Junction, I ran a group of restaurants through the Front Range. And and the fixed operating costs we were paying, our occupancy costs there, compared to average price per square foot here in Grand Junction, are hugely different. So again, in putting together a model of, hey, let's use what's right here, and let's focus on creating hospitality as a viable industry. Let's take the savings that we can do with our prime costs and put that right back into labor. You know, again, we started 10 years ago. For all intents and purposes, though, it's only been the last 2 years that I've been doing events, or I've been kind of the public viewpoint of the restaurants, sort of by design, because it was when we opened a second restaurant that we sort of needed some help. So I tried to go out and get into the spotlight. But before doing so, the intent of doing that was to create roles and positions that could empower people to be able to operate the restaurant, teach them how to do that, so that for me, being a chef owner doesn't equate to 80 hours a week. It equates to quality of life with, you know, a model that we're educating people, and we're providing jobs, and we're helping them buy houses, and we're giving them continued education, and we're doing everything else that we can to try to grow our community through the hospitality industry. That's been our goal all along. The difficult part of that is you know, when I opened Bin 707 Food Bar, minimum wage for tipped server employee was $2.13 an hour. You know, so it's increased 5 times. It's 500% what that was when we started. So as those things change, we've kind of run as far as we can with that model. Between now, you know, the economy sort of caught up with us, so we just can't afford to pay that many people that much. So then it becomes a little bit more taxing. And when it becomes more taxing, the people that it becomes more taxing on are our core managers, myself, etc. When we opened Taco Party, we went to a front of house shared tip model, which seemed to work really well. And now looking at what's happening through COVID, you know, we were really flexible. We've kept 48 employees. We're up to as many as about 70 employees in the middle of the summer, but through dead of winter and into February, we were a staff of about 50, and we've kept 48 of those 50 people on payroll nonstop working throughout this. Now, given our risk was really low comparatively, but in doing so, you know, it's really given me the opportunity to sit down and one-on-one with everybody and say, you know, we still have wage inequality issues. We still have, you know, some tip share issues. How do we fix that now? The last model we've proven to work for the last 10 years, but you know, it's gotten to the point that it will not continue for 10 more years. We need to update it in order to stay relevant. So now as we reopen, we're looking at the other ways that we can do that, whether that is a no tip model, not unlike what Caroline's doing, to be able to put, you know, there's new versions of health insurance, for instance, you know, single doctor practices that have maybe not full coverage, but at least allow me to provide some sort of coverage for my staff to be able to go to the doctor if they're sick, or if they break their finger or get a cut or what have you. You know, different ways that we can invest back into the staff by using some of that tip pool. The economy of scale when working with such a large labor percentage is really kind of mind-boggling. And I'll use this example as what's happened with the PPP. Needless to say, the PPP was based off of you know, 10 weeks of payroll, right? So if I'm operating at several $1 million a year and I take 10 weeks of my payroll at a 40% cost, what does that do to the PPP numbers? You know, it's huge how we've been able to kind of take advantage of that, so to speak, how my staff's been able to be taken care of because of the way we do that. But now, coming to the conclusion of that, who knows what dining is going to be for the next 6 months, 8 months, 10 years. The model that we have to set up now needs to be one that's flexible enough to be able to continue doing that. And unlike 10 years ago when unemployment was 10%, and given it is back to that now, but as soon as all of the restaurants are able to reopen, that number is going to drop again. We're going to be back to where we were 6 months ago, where we're all fighting for skilled labor on a 2% unemployment rate. And in that model, or in that reality, my model doesn't function well at all, because it's, you know, there's always grass greener. It's really difficult to be that competitive if somebody is doing higher volume than I am and really need a new, sous chef or bartender or what have you, and I've got a server that doesn't have any more room to move up. We're naturally going to lose them. So our biggest point at this point now is to take these 50 employees that we have, which is really our core staff between previously 2, soon to be 3 restaurants. How do we invest further into that? We're looking at, paid time off, paid 2 weeks off a year. We're looking at almost unlimited unpaid time off to encourage travel, continued education, all of these other things that we can try to invest into people with hopes of keeping them in the Grand Valley and in Grand Junction. If we do that, then hopefully that then continues to invest in our restaurant and dining community rather than exporting it elsewhere, which is, always been our goal.
Understood. Hey, for time, I'm going to flip around a little bit. I hope this is all right with everyone. Juan, I know you got to run in a minute, so I want to jump to you. Education. You mentioned at the onset, Cicero specifically, but education has been a part of your model since the very beginning. Why has investing in people in that way been so important when it can be such a burden financially? And then maybe give us an idea of the scale and scope. How many people have gone through furthering education through your system over the years?
Well, I don't know the answer to the last question. I mean, everybody goes through it. We've kind of gone from doing the Cicerone and, look, if you want to go get your Cicerone, that's actually become a little bit dated. They haven't done a great job of keeping up with that. So maybe you could talk to them about that, Jensen. I think we've had, or to hazard a guess, we've probably had 30 sommeliers work for us. We have 1 master that has worked for us. Everybody had to have their level 1 Cicerone just to get on a floor in any of our restaurants. Most people got their level 2s early on, especially at the Tap and Burgers. But what we've done now is we've implemented a corporate communications system called Slack that we use, and then we also implemented Trainual, which has allowed us to put kind of an online university together. And so we have 2 classes a week that are mandatory. One's hospitality and one's product driven. And there's quizzes and tests, and a lot of this stuff is on their own accord to go out and learn it. But we can see who does it and who doesn't, and we can begin to measure, productivity, based off of that. So I think that's a huge. That's been a huge thing, for us as we've gotten bigger, because, we got to over 400 employees here. And I'm listening to all these other guys talk, and it's really, inspiring to listen to what everybody has to say. And I think that listening to a young guy like Anders and Kevin, maybe not so young, just kidding, Kevin, and putting, these types of groups together, I think they're super important. If I were to leave you with one thing, what I'm hearing here is that, small businesses, they need resources, and they need an organization that provides some leadership around that. And the only way you're going to be able to afford stuff like this, Josh and Annette and stuff, and Caroline with Annette and stuff, as you continue to grow, is to have an organization that provides some of it for you. And that's where you're going to take the burden of the cost off of your business, and you're going to be able to, because as you continue to grow, eventually, you're going to have to answer some other people when it comes to financing and things like that. So things do have to change a little bit. That's just a natural progression. But we need a unified voice for independent restaurants, and we don't have that. And we need to get on it. And we need an organization that provides relevant education, training, resources for women and minority-owned businesses, or any small business that is disadvantaged, so that we're creating a sustainable workforce. So there needs to be investment in that area, and we need to figure out how to get that done, and we need to figure out how to get it done soon. So, and I think all these other things that people are talking about are super important. But, you know, I know Brother's really big with the benefits and stuff like that based on what he was saying. And it's like, you know, hey, you know, why aren't we buying benefits together? Why aren't we buying, everyone uses a broadliner. Why aren't we buying food together? Why aren't we hammering our costs down, our overhead down, our occupancy down, you know, through a trade organization like catering does, or like pretty much any other business does. We just don't have that level of organization, and you know, when we do, we'll be able to achieve a lot of what everybody's talking about on this call.
Are you offering to start that right now? Is that what just happened?
I am too old to probably run that, but I think you got this young guy here, Anders, seems like he can run it. So we'll put it and see what it's made of.
No, I appreciate that. And for you, another thing, we've talked about this before, is, you know, you look at a line item of education specifically, I'll kind of tether back to that, and it's a big number, and it freaks people out when they see that number, because they're thinking of that 7 to 8% profit margin, saying there's absolutely no way that's going to cut 1.2% of that profit. That's already nothing. Yet I think we're not thinking big enough in the potential when it comes to getting to that 20% net profit and making that reality. So really appreciate that thinking and challenging the preconceived notion. That's for sure what this is.
It's a whole, there's no, like, you know, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to go offer education and expect your profit to go up. You have to have a bigger plan. But I think it's time that the industry has a bigger plan now. And, you know, I mean, listen how smart everybody on this call is, and all the good ideas everybody has, and the cool things that they're doing in their restaurants. I just learned. And, you know, I think that, you know, from my perspective, you know, bringing a group like this together is really important. I wish I had more time to stick on the call, but I'd like to continue some of the conversations. Caroline, I want to reach out to you. I want to learn a little bit more about what you got going on over there with your pay structure. And I think everybody here, you know, has the ability to, you know, has a good voice, and people respect you. And so I think we got to keep pushing forward here. And if there's ever a time for change, it's now, right?
Could not agree more. Absolutely. We can manifest the industry that we truly believe in. So I'm a big fan of that for sure. Thank you, Juan, for that. Yumi, let's talk to you a little bit. You mentioned your high school, your college kids, and then also you invest quite a bit of money on the wage side of things. You know, you mentioned $17 an hour for, you know, high school kid. That's a decent paycheck for somebody kind of just getting into the industry. So talk about why that was important and how you're actually able to accomplish that when trying to run a single location business in Parker, Colorado.
Well, I think it was a misunderstanding. I did not say $17 for a high school kid. They always going to start. No, they're all going to start. Let's say a dishwasher at 16 years old. They're going to start always 50 cents more than the minimum wage. So the youngest one we have is like $12.50.
These high school kids are balling right now.
But we do have kids. But we do have kids that we actually gone up to 15 now after a year and a half, because we do about 50 cents every so often. So we believe that by the time they out of high school, they be looking at 15. Well, then of course we have the bonus structure. So every 2 weeks, the bonus is about $100, or sometime actually it's on a Friday, Saturday, it can be $30 cash. So yeah, it could add up to that. But no, the kitchen staff is the one that we talk about starting at 17, who had, I don't know, sometimes doesn't have any experience, but they've probably been somewhere doing flipping burgers or something like that. If we notice that they are committed to work, and that their resume they haven't been at like 5 different places in 2 months, then you know, longevity somewhere. Then yeah, they then go up. And once they started, they go up really quickly. Like I mentioned, one kid that started with us 2 years ago at $16.50, practically just cutting vegetables. Now he at $4,200 a month. So yeah, so that's like $50,000 a year. And the way how we attract people is, we are unlike a normal culinary kitchen, is that we're not really looking for culinary folks. We're looking for people who want to make decent living and take responsibilities. And then so give the owners a good 2 or 3 years when they add it. So we attract a lot of college kids and a lot of high school kids. And also we attract a lot of, I would say 30, 40 years old who have a goal of buying a house. So the minute they buy a house, what they do, we give them day off so they can move in, do whatever stuff. And I think that what attract a lot of older people, not older, 30 to 40 years old who are working for us is because we have a balance, we have life balance. Like I said, our hours starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. We work until 3, and then we break until 4, until pre-COVID, we break until 4:30. Come back at 4:30, we close exactly 8:30. So they never leave that work any later than 9:30. So my staff, my kitchen staff never work more than 8.5 hours. And I think that, and then when they're on their day off, they never get called. And I will say that for 17 years, never anybody who had a day off that they get called in, you know, because they need to live their life. They need to plan to go on mountain. They need to go skiing. They need to spend time with their family. We respect that. So I think that the brand that we have built is the fact that, yes, you make great money working at Indochine, and Indochine have heart. And so, and that you make great money when you're there with us. So yes, are we like going through the stress of every 3-4 years getting another group of people? Yes, we do. But we tend to get really good group of people. So the ramp up period, probably about a month or 2, and then get back to normal again. So we have a very uncommon group of people that work together, right? So of course the front staff always make good money. The back staff know how much the front staff work, but they also make really darn good money. In addition to, like, so the lowest kitchen people are like $17 an hour for somebody who part-time or somebody who doesn't know a whole lot yet. But the minute they're in there with us a year, they'll be looking at $50,000 in salary, and up to $82,000 that one guy have right now. And it's a 1 week vacation, 1 week paid vacation, and 1 week sick leave. And and we close on most holiday. We close on Super Bowl. We close July 4th. We literally run like a regular corporate. And I think that's so important, because I think the minute people hear restaurant business, they run away, because unless you're in culinary, but you can't really get normal people, like non-culinary people, interested in working in restaurant, because they think it's a horrible hours. So we changed out of that. We said, nope, you have better life. You can go home and go to a movie. You can go home and still put your kid to bed. And then, you know, we used to have 401k, which is only 2-3 people participated, but we're going to do it again because we have 2 people now that already bought, one of them already bought a house, and one of them is buying house. So we discuss a lot about, I don't walk through the kitchen and go like, oh my God, what's happening today? What's the special? I discuss and like, how close are you getting a house? And then when they get a house, I'll introduce them to like, okay, this is how you do the mortgage. So a lot of what we give them is sort of, you work for us, but I'm giving you all the business acumen that you can go out and be successful in life, whatever that might be for you, once you leave me. But when you leave me, I'll leave such an impression on you that you want to come back. You come back when I need you, even though you come back, you're in college and you need help and call. So I think that's what it is. That's our brand. So very different than what the rest of you are doing. And I admire people in the industry so much. I always feel like I'm like an oddball out, but that's how it's been working for us. So, so with every 2 or 3 years, we're getting a new crew, new college kid, new high school kid. But you know what? They're our family. We have a family of 132 people that we can call in anytime. So,
except on their days off, which I really
except on their days off. Yeah, they had to bake it to be put back in the kitchen. Yes.
I'll come work for you. I love it.
Anytime.
Love your energy. All right, brothers. You mentioned a couple of the benefits that they've been trying to sell. I know that's very, very important to you. You really are big on the physical health, the mental health, and the well-being of your team. Talk about how you've been able to navigate that, maybe some of the challenges I know that you've been open about expressing in navigating that for yourself and for your team.
Yeah, you know, I look at my journey, you know, over the last 20 plus years of working in restaurants and the things that I felt I missed out on. And a lot of it wasn't protecting the mental health of our team, you know, really understanding where they're at personally. And I think the great leaders that I've worked for and who I try to emulate are the people that actually made a personal connection. They made an effort. They made the leadership about the individual instead of trying to run it as a team. So for me, that's always been a constant awareness as a leader, as a business owner, is, you know, I don't ever want to be viewed as that person that just, you know, I'm using you, I'm taking advantage of you. So that's always been something that we've thought about, and that's applied to, we have some employees that we just pay for their mental health sessions. If they need something right now, they need that attention, and that's pricey at first, but what that did is that opened up a conversation of, hey, we have a private room. We can actually bring in a therapist at, 1 day a month, and that therapist can actually see so many appointments. So we're actually able to work with other restaurants here in town and say, hey, here's when the therapist is going to be here. You guys can schedule your appointment, and now we can all chip in together as business owners, and it's a much cheaper expense on us instead of paying for a single session. Because there's a lot of therapists, for them, their biggest cost is working, is paying their rent, for their offices. Mm-hmm. So if we have a private room where someone can have some private attention, it works out really good. So that's something that we've really thought about. I was in a panel last year at NRA, and we were talking about benefits, and one of the discussions that led from that was like, what else are employees looking for besides just health? Because most of them don't even care about health. They don't understand their health insurance. They're not interested in that part of it. So we started the discussion of, what about babysitters? What about masseuses? What about barbers? What about a chiropractor? So we've actually had a chiropractor come into the restaurant before, big dinners, and cracked everybody up on a portable bed, which is crazy, but it puts everyone in the right headspace. And I think that's what being a great leader is about, is really making sure that you're personalizing the service for your team first. The guests that come in the door, of course we do that. That's our goal, but it starts with the team. I tell people this all the time. I didn't start a restaurant because I wanted people to eat my food. It's because I love being in this industry, and I love being around great people that share my passion. So being able to hire with that intention, and then protect those employees and make sure that they feel like they're getting that personalized service, that's where it starts. I mean, that's what every day is about, is knowing that if the restaurant's not open, you're okay to bring your kid in right now. Like, we're going to be doing some meetings and stuff like that. We'll give you some crayons and some toys to play with, but it's being open to those conversations where it's like getting away from this traditional corporate mentality of, here's your 401k, here's your medical, here's your dental, here's your vision. Good luck. We give you a little bit of PTO. I think it's going to the next level. Hey, you look like you need a date night with your girl. I'm going to go buy you some movie tickets. Take the night off. I'm going to work your station. Like, that goes so far when it comes to loyalty and someone who is going to stay with you for a long time is making that impression. So, for us as business owners, and, Tina and I, we've run both our restaurants 100% on our own. We don't have investors. We don't have partners. Like, this is us, making sure that we're doing it. We're constantly aware of the temperament of our team members and how they're performing. And I mean, you can see it. Body language is everything. And if you read your employees, they're gonna, you pull them to the side, they're probably gonna tell you what's really going on. So it's just keeping that pulse.
I love it, everybody. Amazing. Thank you so much for all the insights. Brother, I really appreciate what you said about the creativity and thinking about the mental health of the chiropractor, their biggest cost being renting a unit somewhere. And if you, as a restaurant group, let's say, to maybe Juan's point, all of a sudden we're able to mitigate that cost, that could significantly reduce the cost that then somebody on your team would have to pay for that service, because a lot of those overheads are baked in. That's exactly the thinking of the whole idea of the Paragon Pillars. Getting stakeholders invested, understanding their challenges and opportunities to move those levers. So grateful to everybody watching, everybody on this panel. This conversation is so important. It's so fundamental to the way that we're going to navigate the future of this industry. And it's going to take this level of creativity, because it's very easy for us to get caught up in the way things are, the normal of our industry. Our industry is not normal. It's fucking crazy. And we have to be more creative than ever. And I believe that this is the beginning of that opportunity. These conversations are so, so important. So thank you to everybody for being a part of this. Thank you to all of my guests. Thank you Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I'm going to keep hustling and communicating. That's what we do in this industry. That's what we're built on. It's in our DNA. Have a great day. Cheers.